So this house here is where Robin Williams, the actor, grew up. And I have a little bit of a story to tell about that. I used to work at the Belvedere Tennis Club here in Tiburon. And my boss would allow me to put a help wanted ad to make extra money, helping people with gardening or whatever they needed around the house on the tennis club bulletin board. And Robin Williams' mother, Lori Williams, hired me to do some gardening, and I would clean their gutters and stuff. This is when I was probably about 17 years old. And one day she didn't have, I kind of finished it early, so she didn't have a lot for me to do, so she had me dust Robin Williams' bedroom, and it was really pretty cool. It was like going back in time, because Robin Williams at that time was extremely busy. If you're a fan of him, you know how many movies the guy made and what he's involved with. So he's constantly out of town. So his parents decided to keep the bedroom as kind of a, they didn't change it. So there's a bunk bed. Robin had a sister, and at one point they stayed in the same room together, and there was all this memorabilia all over the walls that they had collected from Robin, a lot from the Mork and Mindy show, and a lot of movie posters. And I was in there with my little feather duster dusting, so that was a pretty cool memory. And then later on, Robin's mother, Lori, and I kind of became friends, and I played tennis and she played tennis. And we ended up playing tennis several times for a while there. And she was funny because sometimes you'd hit the ball to her, and the ball was clearly, you know, in the court, and she'd call it out. And I would let her get away with that. She was, at that point, I was a 17-year-old kid. And when I was playing her, she was probably in her 60s at that point. And I was a pretty good tennis player when I was 17. So it was her way of kind of fudging a little bit. But we had a lot of fun, and she's a very nice lady. And I did meet Robin Williams' dad, and he was cool. He worked for the Ford Motor Company, I think he said, for 40 years. And so I'd go down to their house right here, and I'd do gardening, and they would always offer me a cold Coke. And cool experience. Hey everyone, and welcome back. First of all, I want to apologize real quick. It is so windy out here, and the little dead cat on my camera I lost a few weeks ago, and I have another one on order. So if the wind noise is bad, that's why, and I'm sorry. So I'm here in Tiburon, California, and this is a cool little town, and I got a lot of history here. The view behind me is Golden Gate Bridge and Angel Island. That rock there, they call it Elephant Rock. So why don't you come along and hear some stories about this town, and let's check it out. It's a cool little town. All right. So when I was a kid, I would ride my bicycle out here from the town down, it's probably about 5 miles away, called Strawberry, which is a part of the town of Mill Valley. And I would fish on this rock. And at the time, all this fancy railing you see wasn't here. It was a much smaller area that you could fish from. And I remember throwing my line over this edge here. Now you got to think, go back in time, this would have been like 1976 or close to that time. And I caught a rockfish, and I was very excited, even though it was a rockfish. The other thing I would do is there's a ferry over there, and it's a bizarre ferry because it's a square ferry, or more of a rectangle, but it's very, you know, it's not round at all. It's just like a floating block. And that's the same ferry that I would take in the 70s. And one of the things that I'd do is I'd ride my bicycle over here and put my bike on the ferry, which they let you do and still let you do, and you'd ferry over to Angel Island. And Angel Island has a lot of history. It's got a lot of military history. It's, I forgot exactly how far the perimeter road is, but the thing I would do is I'd ride my bike around there, and back then a lot of the military bases and barracks were open and not closed off, so I'd go exploring around Angel Island. Another interesting fact is Angel Island has deer on it, and believe it or not, deer have been known to swim from Tiburon to Angel Island. And apparently, that's how a lot of the deer end up getting over there, which is strange to me. As you can see, this wind is creating quite a stir in the water. One other note, this restaurant here, the Caprice, has been here a long time, and it's always been a fine dining establishment. I went here on my wedding anniversary once, and the food is amazing. As you can see, the view is amazing. So if you guys want a fantastic place to eat, or if a beautiful view, come to the Caprice. Obviously make reservations for the Caprice. One other thing to tell you, these condos here were not here until the late 80s. And I lived in a room. I did a room and board thing from a lady. I would do gardening in exchange for a room in her house, and these were being built. And all I can remember is the entire time I was there, I'd wake up to pounding nails and construction sounds. That was an interesting situation I lived in. The lady would sit in her chair with brandy and basically wither her life away and watch TV and drink brandy all day. And one time we had it out back in the 80s when dancing was really popular. I brought home a girl, and all I was going to do is change my clothes to go dancing. And I brought the girl down into my room, and the lady flipped out. She says, "You can't have a girl down there." And I said, "All I'm doing is changing my clothes." And she wouldn't allow it, and I ignored her. And she's totally flipping out. So I decided right then that I was going to move out. So me and my girlfriend, or the girl I was dating at the time, went dancing. I came back, packed my shit up, and I was gone. And that was the last of that experience, because I wasn't going to be controlled by some drunk lady drinking brandy all night, bitching that I had a girl, and I was just changing my clothes into, you know, more appropriate clothes to go dancing in. This building here is the Donahue building, and this is an historical building. It is a I'll show you some pictures of the building, but it's tied to the railroad. This is a huge railroad town. They actually had a huge roundhouse here and railroad tracks, and in the pictures you can see docks going out here, and trains would be ferried over and then hook up here and go up to you know, the top of Mount Tam back then, with the crookedest railroad in the world, or go to Muir Woods So it was a big hub. And this museum is supposed to be open today, which it is, and I want to go check it out. Look at that, museum open. Constructed in 1885 as part of the San Francisco and North Pacific Railroad Tiburon Terminal. This depot was the railroad and ferry link to San Francisco until 1967. Now here's a picture. That is where we are. And if you turn around, this all would have been railroads, train tracks and everything, where all those condos are. I just wanted to point out that that is Belvedere Island, and that is some of the most expensive real estate in the country. Look at some of these mansions up here. You see that one straight ahead, and the views they have. And up here, there's also some really nice houses.
So this is a scale model of what was here.
Yeah, I was looking at that picture outside.
In 1909, October of 1909, they took the plans. The railroad had all the plans and everything for that year. A guy got 12 guys together, total 12. Took them 19 years to build this. The normal rail line back then cost 10 grand a mile to build. From San Rafael to here, it cost $77,000 a mile.
Wow.
Because he had he had 3 big tunnels. One of the tunnels was almost half a mile.
Right past Blackie's pasture, is that the one?
There's a little short one there,
yeah.
And then you go a little farther up. If you go up Blackfield, there's one that goes over the Corte Madera.
Oh, wow.
That tunnel went like this. You couldn't see one end from the other end.
Really?
It had a curve in it, yeah. With this depiction, this is, Donahue's Railroad was called the San Francisco and North Pacific, but this is the Northwestern Pacific, which was compilations of railroads from Marin, Sonoma, all the way up to Eureka. None of them were tied together. They were all just short lines.
Okay.
Although this one went as far as Ukiah. So they didn't move the passenger terminal to Sausalito until 1910. So you would get 1 million people a year on this line.
Yeah.
Going north and coming south. Yeah, I can run it back.
Yeah, this model layout is amazing. The detail.
Oh,
19 years, you said, huh?
yeah.
And all these buildings were accurate at the time?
Yeah. Actually, there's 4 that look like hotels.
Yeah.
And this one was brought down from Donahue Landing, which is where we originally had the railroad, to South Carolina. We barged them down here on barges and rolled them over here.
Wow.
It's quite a process. This whole rail yard burned. I don't know if the roundhouse burned. I actually watched them when I was in 4th grade burn the roundhouse down for practice.
Really?
By then, I was 57. By then, they had no steam engines, and those were only for the steam engines. They changed.
If only they kept it.
They changed to all
railroad.
diesel by 54. This was all diesel.
Yeah, by the 40s they were introducing all that too, right?
But it didn't really
take off.
They didn't have really good ones until the 50s. So that ferry boat, which was only the second double-ender ever built anywhere, was built right there on the dirt. And
really?
They just roll it off into the bay. And all the engines for it were built in San Francisco at the Union Iron Works, which was originally owned by Donahue. That's how he got his start, was with the Union Iron Works.
Okay.
He built that, he and his brothers. And the double-enders were a big deal because they didn't have to turn around when they got to the ferry boat.
Oh, I see. They just
went in.
So did you ride any of these trains when you were a kid?
I used to ride, not many times, maybe 5 or 6 times. I took the Eureka train from San Rafael to Eureka, which was really neat. That was 57 or 8 to San Francisco. 10,000 gallons of milk every day.
Really?
Yes.
From Petaluma and all that?
Oh, this was all dairy.
Oh, this is all dairy.
Marin County was almost all dairy.
Wow. I didn't know that.
They, I figured out how many, you know, that would be like a quarter of a quart per person that lived in the city at the time.
That's a lot.
And they transported virtually all the wood that rebuilt San Francisco after the earthquake. Came through
Really?
here. And the reason they did ferries,
Yeah.
because without that, they would have to turn off at Novato, go out to Cordelia, get on the SP tracks, go across to Martinez, and for a long time that was a ferry.
Oh, wow.
Then into Oakland, and then all the way down to San Jose, and then back up to San Francisco. Take another 2 days by the
that's
time they
crazy.
got all the switching and everything done. And this took an hour and a half or 2
Yeah.
hours.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow.
It was a going concern, even in the 50s. They moved 187,000 cars in 1958 on this line. Not all of them came down here. The trains down here used to be probably not quite maybe 100 cars, and they'd have to break them for San Rafael Avenue so cars could get through, because it took a while to get all the cars into this staging area.
Wow. This is the roundhouse right here, huh?
Yes.
Just...
Take a look at this, where that's all filled. And
Yeah.
then take a look at it here. It was all on pilings.
Oh, wow.
Because this is all tidal.
I'm just amazed there's no houses there.
Yeah, I used to listen to when I was in 4th grade in school right there.
Yeah.
And when they were building these houses up here in the late 50s, you could hear them blasting because it was so rocky. They didn't have good machinery back then, so they blasted out.
If only you had the foresight to buy some land back then. If you owned any of that land,
yeah,
you'd be a rich man.
My mother bought a house on the lagoon in 1940.
Oh, well, that's, yeah.
For $5,000.
Wow. There's Blackie.
Yeah, the first diesel,
Yeah.
Southern Pacific's first diesel, and they ran it here till the end, till there were no more trains.
This is where Blackie's pasture is, right?
Yeah, Blackie's pasture is actually here.
Okay.
This is the turn. We
Yeah.
call it Sam's Corner. This is the opposite side of what you're looking at now.
Yeah. Wow. Huh. Like this is from 1900, 124 years ago. Kind of looks like it might be a 4th of July parade or something. This picture is from, say, 1955. Some articles in a newspaper, Independent Journal, 1950. Kind of the way it was here. There's the ferries. This is interesting. Tiburon's old number 112 is a star in Sacramento, so it looks like it fell off the pier at one point, or the pier collapsed. There's the Belvedere Island and the yacht club there. they have a ferry boat model. It's quite detailed. And more amazing pictures here. Love that picture. This is diesel era. By the way this looks, it's probably the 60s. Tiburon. So, for those of you who may not know, the word Tiburon actually means shark. And this is Peter Donahue, the man responsible for all this that we just learned about. Well, that was quite interesting, learning about the railroad history in the Donahue building. Well, as you guys can see, the Golden Gate Bridge is right there, why some of this is the most sought after real estate in the country. The value of this land is unbelievable. Couple more pictures here. Just the building we were just in. The diesel era. And the Ukiah. And here's the official entrance of the ferry. Departure times. And the cost, 18 bucks. It wasn't 18 bucks back then, I know that. It's a little better vantage point of the ferry. And the fog shrouding San Francisco right now. And the yacht club. Okay, we are actually heading towards the main street. Tiburon's just kind of got one little main street with a bunch of shops. And as you can imagine, with the price point of this real estate, a lot of these shops are going to be high-end tchotchke shops and unusual clothing and things that cater to the level of income around here. Let's walk down here. This place has been a forever, Sam's Cafe. You can actually go on the internet and look at punch in Sam's Cafe Cam, and you can see a live view that's always streaming from their deck. So you can always get an idea what the weather might be like here in Tiburon before you come by going to Sam's Cafe live stream. More shops, restaurants, and wine tasting. Now, at one time they had a movie theater here, and it looks like I see some movie posters over there. It looks like they still do have some movies playing here. Yeah. So we got Deadpool, Wolverine, Goodfellas, Twisters, 2001 Space Odyssey. So that's been here a long time because I used to see movies here when I was a little kid. Caviar and Champagne Room. A lot of wine bars around here. And this, I've always liked this water sculpture they made here. It's been here, I'm guessing maybe 30 years. So it's relatively new, but not super new. Vanguard Properties, another little cafe. And this was the ice cream place that I remember. So, no more. Thank you, pandemic. Give you guys an idea of some of the houses around here. 2-bedroom with a loft, $635. Here's one for 1.6 mil. 2-bedroom, 2-bath. 3-bedroom, 3.2 mil. 3-bedroom, 3.9 mil. 5-bedroom, 1.6. Well, as you guys can see, there ain't much to Tiburon as far as retail establishments. A lot of wine bars, a lot of restaurants. But it's a pretty cool place to live if you can afford it. There's very little crime here because there's only one way in and one way out unless you're taking a boat. And peaceful and wonderful views of the Golden Gate Bridge and beyond. Walking back towards where we were. Yeah, there's a little remnants of how things used to be here. Old cleaner sign. Out of business. Broken window up there. They're just... This place must have really hurt during the pandemic. And there's the fountain they added to the condos. I'm trying to figure out the house I lived in. It was right up there somewhere. I wanted to point something out too. You see that sign stapled to the tree? It's crooked, no smoking sign. Tiburon is officially a non-smoking town. That means you cannot smoke outside, you cannot smoke anywhere in the town of Tiburon legally, only inside your house or inside your car. Samuel Blake Chapman. He was a famous baseball player here, and I was reading the plaque above. Went to Berkeley University and helped the Thundercat team to a Rose Bowl victory, Cal Bears. And he worked in the shipyards here and played baseball locally here. And he was, at the time of his early years, called the Tiburon Terror. He later went to Tam High School, which is the same high school I went to. Another thing related to the train yard here, this palm tree marks the location of the Northwestern Pacific Railroad yard from April 28, 1884 to September 25th, 1967. Hundreds of workers toiled to keep the railroad system and ferry boats operating. It's wild to think that there was a train yard here once before, huh? Look at the pelicans up there just cruising on by. Well, what did you think of Tiburon? Interesting, tiny little town with a lot of railroad history. The railroad Donahue building was really interesting. Seeing all the photos of how this town used to be was pretty wild. It's a pretty sleepy little town with a lot of wealthy people that live here. But not much going on, as you can see. But I always had good memories of this town. and coming here and riding to Angel Island on my bicycle and fishing. So hopefully you enjoyed my little visit to Tiburon. And if you did, why don't you hit that subscribe button? Why don't you hit the bell notifications? And I will see you on my next video. Peace.